Okay, so let's start with bureaucratic agencies because those are always fun. So I know that you've worked for a lot of them, including Wyden, BBDO, TBWA, and what kind of patterns did you see there that made you think, I need to get out of here and I want to start my own? What made you start Amusement Park Entertainment?
Well, it had nothing to do with the agencies. I mean, Wyden is pretty. That blew up my career, so I had an awesome, good time over there. And David Lubar is over at BBDO, let me do pretty much what I wanted to do. And then Lee Cloud, has always been my dream to work with Lee, so I had a good time at all three of those places. It was more so of what happened before I got into either one of them. And I was at a small agency, Muscadero Chin in L.A., and they had a snippet of Nike. And every once in a while, Scott Bedberry, who was the head of Nike advertising, would come over and show us storyboards of some spots they're getting ready to do. And one of them he showed me was Hair Jordan, H-A-R-E. And he goes, "What do you think?" And I said, that's the stupidest idea I've ever seen. What does Michael Jordan basketball have to do with Bugs Bunny? And I was wrong. Thank God they didn't listen to me, and it blew up. And then Warner Brothers actually turned it into a movie and called it Space Jam. And so when I got into Wyden, Jim Riswell is who created Hair Jordan, so it was his idea. And I knew the movie was extremely successful, made like $283 million at the box office. So I'm going, "Jim, how much did you make off of that?" And he said, "I didn't make anything." And he said it was some expletives, but I didn't make anything. And I said, "What are you talking about? I mean, that was your idea. You created. We didn't have anything. I didn't have anything to do with the movie. Wyden Kennedy didn't have anything to do with the movie. Nike didn't have anything to do with the movie. Warner Brothers did their own thing." And I said, "Whoa!" And then through Joe Pica, I found out who directed both of them, the movie and the commercials. And I found out how much they made in merchandising, which was like $3.5 billion, would it be? So that plus the box office is close to $4 billion. That came from an advertising idea. And at that time, I believe Nike was like a $6 or $7 billion company. And here's a movie, one simple idea made that amount of money. And yet the creator didn't get anything. So I said, "Nah, we can't go like that." So that planted the seed to not only, there's got to be a better way in terms of compensation, but more importantly, advertising isn't just a 30-second spot. It can be a movie, it can be a video game, it can be an event, a whole host of things. And the trick is to weave all of those various transmedia properties or pieces of a big idea into one.
So now that we're on the concept of big ideas, the thing I love is the co-ownership strategy. I think that's great. And I'm really curious as to what kind of the response has been from clients or even from the people that work for you on these ideas to the concept of, because it's quite a novel concept in my opinion. So I'm just curious as to what their reactions have been thus far.
Well, the client that has, they don't care about that. They just care about, do I have a great idea that's going to move my business? So they don't get involved per se in how we split the profits of whatever we're getting, whatever our compensation is. But as far as the talent that comes up with the ideas, they love it, of course. I mean, who wouldn't, rather than just be on a regular salary, not to own something that potentially could be huge? And it also is an additive incentive for them to, shoot for the stars. Everybody knows they come to amusement park, we're home run hitters. We're trying to, knock it out of the park and do something that's never been seen or done before. So it's like you're looking for the Holy Grail. You're looking for the end of that rainbow, and where somebody comes up with one of those ideas, it becomes this massive hit, and hey, I got a piece of it. It's keeping the dream alive, what gets you out of bed.
And I'm sure that plus the fact that you have this policy of no assholes allowed, which is the reason why I asked about the agencies in the first place, because I was like, maybe this is something that kind of, hindered you, or not hindered, but just kind of bothered you when you were working for some of the bigger corporations. I think that tends to be a glowing trend regardless of what industry you're in. So that's why originally I asked, let's start with that bureaucracy. But this is not bureaucracy, which I love. The fact that... one thing I should explain,
that was influenced not just by working in an agency. Like I said, the places I worked, I had a good time with the people that I worked with.
And you were given free range, which is not something many can say either.
But assholes are outside of agencies as well, right?
Of course.
Other folks involved in the process of creating an idea that are not necessarily working at an ad agency.
Of course. And the thing, so now that you've kind of built that concept.
In other words, I may not want a client. I may not want that particular client because they're a pain in the ass.
Oh, of course, but in the scope of what you built, your experience must have translated into some of the ways in which you preferred to take your own company, which is the reason why I was,
learn from them.
Asking.
Absolutely. Like,
for example, the concept of diversity that you promote. That's another thing that, maybe not a lot of other places can boast the same glory, but it's something that, I agree that needs to be done, and it's something that I think is amazing about Amusement Park and something that I really, truly admire. So, and along with that, so if we add the diversity, and then we add the no assholes allowed policy, which is great, and then I'm wondering what is your idea on kind of global interaction of creative work? Like, do you work with a lot of creatives from around the world? Or how do you see that affecting the industry as a whole, the fact that these conversations are starting to go around? You have like crowdsourced talent for agencies as well. Those are disrupting the same way yours is. Kind of what is your opinion on that? Because our audience is very international. So, they want to know, kind of how that conversation is flowing around across borders.
So hopefully I answered this right. I could care less where that's the difference between me or Amusement Park as a whole, as opposed to some other places. I could care less where the idea comes from. It can come from the, the cleaning lady in my hotel room. Hey, I got an idea. Well, what's that? I'm just curious to know about people. I'm curious to know about ideas. So from a global perspective, you can be from Mars. I do not care. And I embrace the quirkiness in people. I expect everybody not to be like me, right? In fact, I prefer that they be different. If everybody's walking around through Amusement Park looking like me, dreadlocks, so on and so forth, coming from the same perspective, the ideas are going to all be the same. So I need that infusion of a variety of thinking, a variety of even just seeing somebody who has a different style in terms of how they dress, how they talk, some of the terminology that they use. When you fuse that into a place like the Amusement Park, you come up with ideas that you never would have expected. Like I was telling some cats earlier that I'm working with a aerophysicist who used to work for NASA on an idea that it should be pretty huge, right? And who would have, in most agencies, if an aerophysicist walks in talking about they want to be a creative and come up with an idea, well, how's your art direction? Let me see your portfolio. Let me take this out. It's like, no, this dude, I went to him. I approached him. I said, you know what? I'm thinking about, I got this assignment. You got any thoughts on that? And he goes, yeah, I got a couple of ideas. And I said, my man. And he came back in like a couple of weeks later and presented his idea. And I said, right on, we're going to do that. So we're like full throttle on working on this type. It's an event. And that was his idea.
So you not only go across the borders, but you also go across the industries as well. You're looking for anybody from anywhere, basically.
Absolutely.
And so when all of this disruption is occurring, I have to ask, should the traditional agencies be worried? And if so, then what do you think they can do, since you've been in that environment? What can they do to kind of ensure that amid all of this kind of disruptive, not only disruption in the agency structures themselves, but also in kind of then the expectations of clients and consumers that might result from that? What can they do to, as big and as bad as they are, do you think they should be worried? And if so, what would you advise?
Well, if anybody doesn't care. It doesn't matter what business you're in. If you don't adapt, if you don't embrace where the business is going, if you don't have visionaries working at your company, you're screwed. So, that's just bottom line. You should be worried. And again, the places that I worked at, David Lubars, Dan White, and John Jay, Lee Clow, and all those guys. Those guys are visionaries, and they'll make sure that they adapt and move in the right direction. But the vast majority of them, I mean, they'll be gone. They'll see, they'll see if they, because for some reason, I mean, it's not just advertising. It's look at the record industry, right? They didn't adapt when the digital age came about, and now they're getting hammered, and they're shrinking more, and they just keep doing the same things. For some reason, you have mugs that can't adapt, and they'll disappear. And yeah, they don't even know they should be worried. So that, at least that's a blessing for them. They'll disappear and they won't see it coming. It's like you don't see your death coming. So it's like, well.
So because we're here at the New York Advertising Festival and you were one of the executive jury members, I have to ask if through the submissions that you saw, was there anything that made you stop and say, that's interesting or that's cool, or did you see some kind of trend or pattern in which that shows kind of the direction that maybe some of the younger, more innovative creatives are taking?
I think I loved it when there were ideas that, which is with any show, when they're really fresh. And some of the things I noticed was that people who you would think wouldn't be in an ad or be appealing in an ad in 100 million years, there's no way to, like, they're uncool, they're, you wouldn't go see their movie or you wouldn't go see them play or whatever they did, like they're past their prime. So Mike Tyson, and who bit off Evander Holyfield's ear, right? And then Dennis Rodman, who, was like, dude, you're going to North Korea? What's wrong with you? Here he is in an ad campaign. It's like, that makes no sense. And then there's, hopefully I say his name right, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Mm-hmm. You would think it's like, well, he's past his prime as far as movies, are concerned. And here he is in this thing for Volvo.
Doing the epic split.
And you're going, wow, the genius of the creatives who saw how you could take people who you would think were past their prime as far as popularity and injecting them into a piece of work for a brand. And then the clients that approved that work. Those guys they're like geniuses. Love it. Obviously, there's a lot of what you call digital work, mm-hmm. which I don't call digital work, but just,
work.
It's just work. But a lot of things were not hinged on film. A lot of the ideas weren't hinged on a film, like textbooks. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these ideas are out there to help people. That's what I noticed with a lot of the work, so-called non-traditional work, where it was designed and created and it had an element that was good for humanity in it, and that was pretty cool.
They say good is the new sex, like how sex used to sell. Now being good sells Amen. Just as well. So I think that's a great point to leave off on. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.